Hello. It's been a day or two longer than I intended between videos. Both on part of the creation of the new background visuals, which we have now. Yay! The timing of which is quite comedic, because a snowstorm just hit my town. So now, these new spring visuals represent quite the inverse picture to what's outside my window when I'm recording this. Still, it's good to look ahead. The real reason I am putting one out today and not yesterday is because at like 9 p.m, around the time far from when I would go to sleep, that's 2 hours before I get off work most of the time. Around 9 p.m. yesterday, I went for a lay down and I didn't get back up. I fell asleep, woke up and checked my phone, and then it was 10 something, and I thought, oh, I'm not ready to get up yet. Maybe in a bit I'll get up and make some food or something. And then I closed my eyes again, checked my phone when they opened again, and it was 11 p.m. And at that point I thought, well, I don't have to get out of bed. There was nothing I was going to immediately do. So then I slept until God knows in the morning. And then even after that point, every time I woke up, I went back to sleep until about noon, when I finally decided to get up. I forget what noise made me get up, but something did. I slept well over 12 hours, likely a consequence of having to get up quite early for other jobs. I may have mentioned, I forget if I did or not, but I was in that old building last week for helping with a job, and 2 other meetings, one on Sunday and one on Tuesday. Or Wednesday, was it? No, that's what it was. It's one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday. For both of those, I had to get up far earlier than I'd say I was ready to. The Elden Ring co-op thing still had me up quite late, much to the detriment of me and the friend playing, as we both have class. I think I'm going to make this one a shorter one, because the moment I remembered that I should probably make one was the moment after I had clicked shut down on my computer. So I had to turn it back on, which in this day and age is not much of an ordeal. It's like 30 seconds if you're running off of an SSD. But there's still a weight behind having to turn the thing back on. I find myself often wondering how much of the weather outside is par for the course and how much is completely unexpected. Like the snowstorm that hit today, and it was all day. Every time I looked out the window, it was just flurries. Constant. Non-threatening, but it's going to be threatening when I have to drive to class tomorrow. But I don't remember spring taking so long to come round. I struggle to remember how spring was last year due to a number of unfortunate circumstances regarding mental health or my job, which is in a building with no windows. It's miserable. There are no windows, and even if you were to look outside the windows, it's just concrete. The only indication of whether it's winter or not is whether there's snow on the ground. It's a miserable place, but the people are nice, so can't complain. I'm hoping that I can have a better spring this year than I did last year. Like, as I just said, it was rougher than most other springs I've had. Spring of 2020 was rough because everybody had entered quarantine, and with that, my relationship at the time was strained. Not to like a breaking point or anything, but physical affection is something I struggle to live without, and I think my partner at the time felt the same. So being completely separated for multiple weeks was pretty not great. We managed to meet up on her birthday though, and secretly shared one hug because we'd both been quarantining, right? I hadn't gone anywhere, she hadn't gone anywhere. There was no harm in it, but her parents were real strict about it, I guess. The spring of 2021 was an interesting one because my relationship was no longer there, and I'd been feeling that for a bit. But my best friend, who had spent most of quarantine up in the mountains, completely away from everyone and everything. His internet wasn't great, so he was back in town, and while everyone else was busy, I was not in school and not employed, so we hung out together a lot. I look extremely fondly upon photos and videos from back then. It was a really good spring, and I really felt like the whole length of it, I guess. Like the decay and rot to the budding, to the green, the rain, right into summer. The next year was much the same as well. In that year I had a job, but it was a night job, so if I woke myself up early enough in the morning, I could take my time to enjoy the weather, enjoy the green, walk my dog. It was great. It was great. "2023 was an odd one though, because I went to Japan in spring of 2023 at the neck end of it, and even by the beginning of May, not all the snow had melted, and I hopped on a plane to take me across the ocean, across the world, to a place that had already passed like its spring bloom. We got there right after cherry blossom season. So there are still petals on the ground in a lot of places. And then 2 weeks passed, came back home, and suddenly everything was completely different to how I'd left it. All the snow was gone, all the trees had their leaves, and a lot of the trees were in bloom. It was an odd feeling. I can't say I remember any other springs beyond those ones. Which is funny, because like when I think of fall or winter in other years, I can remember things, usually based around school, but I can remember things. But I can't remember anything about spring. Well, either way, current weather feels unnatural, and that might just be due to a lack of things to compare it against. Or maybe it's just a thought stemming from the desire for winter to be completely over, gone and done with. It seems I'm still going to have to wait. I find it interesting that everybody seems to have a different favourite season. I would say my favourite season is summer, because I've always had the most fun in the summer, but my favourite month is May, which is not in the summer. Other people will say fall is their favourite season because it's temperate for the most of it, and the leaves are pretty. I've never been a fall person, but I came to realise that there are a lot of things that go into somebody choosing their favourite season, like their own fashion, how they dress, or how their body is, whether they sweat a lot, or where they live. And I say where they live because different seasons exist and don't exist in different ways in different places, but even in places that are largely similar, there can still be major differences. And I wasn't a fall person. Like, I didn't like the season at all, except for the events. I'm born in the fall, but I don't like the fall. I don't like autumn. Or I didn't until I went on that trip to Seattle. And that drive was beautiful the whole way through the mountains and through the valleys. And it was well into fall, just a month until December. Where I live, you don't really get that during the fall. The trees lose their leaves pretty quick with how windy it gets. And it gets pretty cold pretty quickly as well. If I was born some 500 kilometers away from where I am now, I would probably like fall enough to say it's my favorite season. Probably. But for now it's summer. That's my favorite season. If you do have a favorite season, you, whoever is listening, and you have a reason as to why, or if you can explain it to me, please do. I would love to hear other perspectives on this sort of thing again. There's so many factors. I only listed 3, but there's so many factors that go into something being someone's favorite. Except for color. Where does that one come from? Chair's squeaky. I remember as a kid finding a book like about autism or something, and the book had a color wheel on it, or more like a color semicircle with like a gradient going across the thing, and it said, where your favorite color is where you are on the spectrum. And we had this one autistic kid in the class. His name was Julian. We were good friends. And I asked him what his favorite color is. And he said orange. And I went, huh. And I looked at the book and I saw like 4 on the spectrum. Orange. But I doubt that book was particularly accurate, or I probably read it wrong. I was only like 9 years old at the time. So that book could have said something completely different. We'll never know. For anyone wondering, my favorite color is blue. Not that deep blue you get when you set the RGB color picker to max blue and 0 red, 0 green. But halfway between regular blue and teal. That sort of electric blue. That's my favourite blue. There was a point in time where I tried to coordinate my whole I'm losing my words, wardrobe to be that colour. Didn't work. You can't get pants in that colour, at least not jeans. But I did have a number of shirts in that colour. Fashion sense is definitely something you develop over time, but I wonder how my life would have changed if I could go back in time and give my child self my current fashion sense. How would have, that would change how people view me, right? Because people will judge you on how you dress. So I don't know, it's too much of a multi-variable thing to simulate in my head. I have no idea where my life would go from there. All I know is I didn't dress particularly well. I had some nice shirts, but I wore the same shorts and pants with every outfit, so the same 2 or 3 shorts or pants. There was no thought in it, just, I like this shirt, these pants are comfortable, there go. The point at which people start thinking about that kind of thing probably changes. Well, not changes. It's probably different for everyone, right? It's not everybody comes to consciousness about it around 13 to 14 or something like that. Some particularly invested people are probably into it by the time they're 8. They're picking out clothes and stuff like that, which is a dangerous thing, I think, but maybe that gives them an advantage. I don't know. It is such a superficial thing, right? But it's so integral to the day-to-day. So if you dress like an idiot, people will think you're an idiot, right? Or if you dress very alt, people will think you're alt. If you dress very proper, people will think you're proper. Such and such, right? I'm getting a bit far from the microphone. My bad. I've tried adjusting the mic a bit today to reduce the noise, as my computer was picking up quite loudly in all the previous recordings, even with post-processing noise suppression. So I've moved the mic closer to my person, and I've turned the gain down. So as of now, it's barely picking up any of the ambient noise. And that may sound better. It'll sound cleaner. But if the absence of the noise of the computer isn't, or if the noise of the computer is missed, then say something and I'll bring it back. Okay? Okay. I should probably head to bed. I do have to get to class tomorrow. There's more script reading. And I have a lot to work on. I just wish the weekends were as long as the weekdays. Okay. If you're still listening, or if you've fallen asleep, I hope you have a good night. Rest well. Maybe think about what you're going to wear tomorrow if you're still struggling. And if you're not going out tomorrow, then don't think at all. Okay. Good night. Bye-bye.